Here we
All
are.
right.
Here we are
Nice.
on our first Zoom call podcast. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Just go through some of the tech tips and
Yeah.
some of the, I guess, the little things that are going on in the industry today, I guess, with tech and news. I think you're actually going to be building a gaming PC, so
Yeah.
we can go through that
So
a little bit.
yeah, like building a PC, a gaming PC, or a PC in general right now is very, very challenging, right? Because everybody's building them. I think that's the big thing, is that what what we're really generally used to is kind of supply levels being fairly open, fairly kind of available, and now we're kind of like running into an area where everyone's kind of refreshing their computers or buying new systems, and with the holidays around the corner, everyone's just buying everything up, and they have the time to build a new PC, they have the time to play the games that they love to play, or the new games that are coming out, and a lot of exciting titles. But at the same time, as again, like for me, and this, Phil, more like you know this, that I'm a Mac guy, I'm in the Apple ecosystem. It's been a long time
Mm-hmm.
since I've actually had a PC. I've had a PC way back in the day. I don't even remember what it was, but it I was able to play Counter-Strike on it.
Wow.
And then
Yeah,
right, like,
that's going back. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an exciting time because, under normal pretenses, I would say to someone like yourself, you know what, even going with a generation 2 or 3 ago, getting things on sale might be the way to do it on a budget build. Um, and that way there, you could probably still get the components because, people aren't looking to mass buy for whatever reason, whether it's, the Ethereum, Bitcoin industry trying to get their hands on the cards, or it's just simple scalpers, using bots to make a profit. The only problem is me and you had talked a little bit about this before, and I kind of got sucked into that. I ended up getting one of the 2000 series NVIDIA cards, but it was very intro to the ray tracing technology. And the new 3000 series cards have made leaps and bounds with performance in the ray tracing. So it really doesn't make sense now to buy a 2000 series card, one, because of the price point, and two, you're just going to get so much more performance out of ray tracing on a 3000 series card. So I saw the unboxing video of Clay, so it looks like he was very lucky and fortunate enough to get a 3060 Ti. So that's excellent. But yeah, I think in your case, you definitely want to get some of that newer tech. I think it's definitely worthwhile waiting and trying to get your hands on something that will give you the newest features and graphics that will be appreciated with some of the new games coming out.
Yeah, and I think trying to get those new components is lending to is causing to be an issue, right? Because everything's new, supply chains are low, and being in Canada, we have even less stock available because of the just our sheer population compared to the United States, right? So
Right.
I remember when the 3080s came out, and after they all got sold, after nobody could get their hands on them, I think I heard something that came out to say, or it came out that Canada only got maybe 50 cards.
Oh,
that
really?
was it. Yeah. Only 50 cards, and I think we only got maybe like 10 founders editions. I don't know the exact numbers, but like it was a really low amount of cards, whether they were founders editions or whether they were IABs or
Wow. Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I think people are battling it in the PC industry because it's a very exciting time, despite 2020 being arguably one of the worst years in a very long time, just because of COVID and just numerous other things that people are going through. It's but in the tech scene, it's very exciting. There's just so much things that have been pumped out in the technology sector. Not only in PC, but even with the new consoles, the PlayStation 5, the Xbox. You can't even get your hands on one of those. I actually, just off topic, I tried yesterday. I believe even you tried for me, but through
Yep.
Walmart EB Games, they had a limited restock, and I actually got as far as getting to the checkout in the Walmart. So I had it in my cart, and then all of a sudden it was gone. Like it was just like, sorry, this item's no longer available, and it's I'm kind of hoping. I don't know if it will ever change, but I'm really kind of hoping some retailers do find a way to allow people to just buy one item if it's a hot commodity, and if they've used their address to populate it, they can't keep logging in using their shop bots to keep buying, and then that way there, the users win, and not the scalpers. But I'm not really sure the retailers care too much. That's probably a topic on itself, but yeah, because I really would have liked to get that PS5, right? So
Yeah, no, I tried too, and I got through to EB. Same thing. Got it in the cart. Was right there. And then, well, actually, no. Technically, did I get it through EB? I can't remember which one I went through. I know at one point. Oh no, I had it through Walmart, and then after the cart incident, same as you, where it was in the cart, and by the time I was checked out, by the time I went to check out to put the credit card information, all that stuff, it was gone. And then I tried EB. Well, at the same time, I was logged into EB as well to do the same thing, right? Because both sites were having, they're only letting a certain amount of people into the site because of the sheer traffic. And on EB, I was able to get it into the cart, same thing, and then nothing.
right, yeah. So yeah, it's all exciting, and it's infuriating and frustrating at the same time. You just want to get your hands on things, and the supply chain is just not really allowing for it. So the good news is that I guess through the mothership platform, it's going to be multi-collaborative, lots of people adding to the tech. So it's really good that Clay actually got his hands on one. So, we can actually do some real-time benchmarking potentially with, just an average PC system, which I'm excited for, because I know some of the other tech channels, they tend to use the highest end features. And at the end of the day, it's not necessarily what people can afford or what their budget allows for, where the system that Clay particularly put together is probably going to be maybe somewhere, I'm assuming maybe in the range that you're going to be spending. So it'd be really cool to see what kind of gaming performance you can actually get on a limited budget, if you will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, I've been having some issues here.
There's bound to be some technical difficulties.
Always something, eh? Always something.
I know, but
yeah.
I was gonna say,
but to get back onto kind of like our topic. I wouldn't say our topic, but like kind of like the reason why we're doing. Well, again, the reason why we're doing this call, more so on the kind of PC build side of things, like just to kind of like run through. Just information, because again, like I said, I'm coming from the Apple ecosystem, where when you buy things, you buy them in just whole systems, right? And you just take it out of the box, you plug it in, and that's it. Like it works, right?
Yeah.
And with my limited experience, it can get very very intimidating. Yeah, that's it, right? Like intimidating. That's why, like a person like yourself can help, not only me, but everybody else out there that is looking to dive into the PC world, where they don't really have much experience, and they might have a lot of questions. Like I have a lot of questions, just in terms of like, builds and that kind of stuff. And I'm not used to it. Like I'm not used to the size of the machines too, right? The machines are big, right, or can be big, and I like right. Small. I like small computer systems that take up a lot less space. But with that, and I think and what I know, and you've echoed this before, is that with small form factors, you have thermal issues, heating issues with the components that you might not be able to kind of cool down enough.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an exciting time to get back into any type of gaming platform, and as you just stated, from a Mac user where you pull things out, it's ready to go out of the box. That's very convenient, but I would encourage anybody to not be intimidated by building your own PC. There's plenty of popular videos out there where people are doing builds, but like even someone like, an actor like Henry Cavill, can put together a PC who's predominantly spending time making films and doing TV, so that someone like he can do it. I'm sure anybody can do it. I think it just takes a little bit of time. Me and you have had some off video phone calls about it, and just to quickly kind of recap what we talked about, when I try to help friends that are going through this progression where they're like, I do want to build a PC and I want it to be multifunctional, but I do want to be able to play some games. One of the things that I end up telling them is that where you should probably start from, and oftentimes is missed by a broad spectrum of audience, is really what resolution are you going to play the games at, right?
Right.
It's sometimes it's just fundamentally missed, and people don't even consider it, and you're thinking like, I need a 3080 or a 3090, and I just need to go crazy and buy all this expensive gear, and it's just not necessarily the case. There's so much content now on YouTube. There's so much content online. Like if you just do a quick Google search, like if you're playing at standard high definition 1080p, a very, very basic entry level PC is all you need, frankly, to be able to play any game you could probably throw at it. Obviously, as you go up in the resolutions, as you get to 1440p, as you get to 4K, and God forbid if you can even try to get an 8K monitor and go to that point, obviously, you need to up your budget a little bit and be a little bit more scrutinous as to what parts you're putting into it to obviously maximize that performance. So that's really important, to just general audience members, and even to yourself who are listening, keep that in mind. Like always think about, start with your monitor. What type of monitor would you like to play at? Like if it's a widescreen 1440p and you're kind of like, this is what I want, or that's my goal, then build your PC around that. That's what I would start with, and then go from there. And then obviously, as you get into the components start to get a little bit driven by that resolution. Another argument to be made would be then the form factor. You touched on it. Some people live in smaller households. Maybe they're in condos. Space is an issue. There's nothing wrong in terms of going with mini ATX, micro ATX, or just a full ATX build. But again, if you're looking to maybe push the boundaries of your system, and if eventually overclocking is going to be something you'd like to get into, thermals could be an issue. It really just depends how you do the cooling. But then more importantly, again, it's also about connectivity. If you want to upgrade your system, as you get down to the micro and the mini ATX boards, oftentimes they only have dual DIMM slots for RAM. So if you ever wanted to upgrade the RAM, you can't just plop in some extra RAM now to give your system a little bit of extra juice. You have to literally take out the old RAM and put new RAM in if you wanted to expand that memory or obviously go faster. So that's something you got to be considerate of. Again, it's just kind of what the system is going to do for you and what you want to use it for. And I think in your case, it's going to be multi-use. Obviously, you're a creative content creator. You like to use, I'm assuming you use lots of hard drive space, but you also want to get into the gaming space. So, when we talked about it, it seemed like for versatility, a full ATX build would be more optimal, even though it takes up more space, because down the road, you need to add more hard drives. If you need to add more RAM for rendering, you will have that capability with an ATX board, where with the micro or the mini, you're kind of limited in that area, although you would get that form factor you would like. So I think when we talked about it, I don't know how you felt about it, but it seemed kind of like that's what you were thinking as well. You wanted that flexibility.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wanted that flexibility to be able to do the work that I do, whether it's content creation or any other work that comes down the line. Professionally, I do a lot of photography and design, and I do some packaging for 3D rendering and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of needs there. There's a lot. It's a wide range of needs for me. So, and that's why that's why I was thinking kind of like on the heavier end of things, like a 3080, and just something just beefier for that. And I wasn't really thinking too much about like, oh well, what do I want to play games at, like what resolution, right? Because again, like using Adobe Premiere and DaVinci Resolve and Photoshop and all those applications, especially 3D applications like Blender and some other ones, you do need a pretty heavy system to make your time efficient. Not necessarily just to use them, but just to make your time efficient when you're rendering things out. Because when you render things out, that's where all your time is taken up, because your machine is just chewing through the file, and
Right.
and you can't do anything with the computer. Like you could bog it down if you multitask while it's doing some heavy rendering.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned that before, and for again anybody that might listen in, AMD all the way in this area. I mean, not only are the CPUs just as good, if not better, in some scenarios than the Intel performance CPUs, but they're just better at multi-threaded applications. So when you get into rendering, Photoshop, and things where you can utilize all those extra cores, especially at a higher speed, you're going to see that noticeable difference in performance in the AMD built systems now over the Intel. So definitely, I think for that multi-platform, I guess a platform that you would like to use, AMD all the way. And I think that's what you have your eyes on as well. So, but I think you're also waiting on a 5000 series, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
obviously
Like
not readily available. So
I missed four, five of them today. Today there was five in stock, and I missed them.
no way.
Yeah, and like, and I guess that goes to kind of like the my inexperience with the PC market and building, because again, I'm used to supply chains from Apple, and Apple supply chains are very, very good. They want to make sure everybody has their product. But when it comes to kind of even this morning, like I checked this morning, and kind of computers, they had five 5800s, 5800Xs, right? And and they have it available to add to your cart and pick up, right? And
Right.
me being me, it's like, oh well, I could, there's five. It's not, how many people are actually building right now in terms of like brand new builds? They just got five in. Like I can add it in like in like an hour, right?
Right. Yeah.
That wasn't the case. It was like,
Yeah.
when I saw it, I should have just added it, bought it, and then, because I'm used to like buying, buying a whole computer, not just buying their components, right?
Right.
So, so yeah, so I missed that window. That was kind of like silly of me, because it was, like I had like it, like, yeah, I should have just hit that add to cart, and then that's it, because then I would, then buy it, and then it's waiting for me, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like on topic, off topic. Just having this conversation with another friend yesterday, and listen, I'm guilty. I buy things online. I mean, it's convenient. It's fast. But there's something to be said about the old school way of before online buying became a really big thing, where people would actually have to go to the stores, make that effort to drive there if it involved lining up a few hours early to ensure you got your hands on one. um, you know in those kind of situations, I think people would have got the products they wanted, but again, the supply chain is just heavily disrupted now from shop bots being created by programmers that can go in and just do things at the millisecond level, and while you're taking time to click something with your mouse, a bot has already surpassed you and beat you into buying that product. So it's unfortunate, but what I would say to like yourself, to the audience, just stay vigilant, stay on the website, set up your reminders, and eventually the supply chain will be able to meet up with that demand, and you'll be able to build these PCs. And I think, hopefully not in your case, but I think one of the best comments I saw on YouTube, I think it was like yesterday, on someone else's thread. One guy was like, you know what, at this point, we'll be able to buy the products when NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel are all about to launch their next product. Right? So it's just,
Yeah.
and I was like, he may not be wrong. He may not be wrong. You know, just goes to show, even like with Clay yesterday getting his hands on a 3060, that it is possible. It's just, you know, unfortunately, it just requires, you know, you gotta keep your eye on those websites, and you gotta make
Yeah.
those phone calls and do your
Yeah,
best.
no, absolutely. Like that's the one thing, is that you just have to kind of be on top of things and just be willing, be ready, especially in this market right now, be ready to kind of like jump on it, right? That's
Yeah.
all it is. But yeah, no, I was looking at because that company Fantex, right? I was going to share with you.
Yeah.
Because
And
I was,
if you see me looking away from the screen, it's because I got the dual monitor set up, so I'm looking over
yeah,
here to see what you post online.
yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if we go back, no, we were just there. Hold on, let's close that. Home. Here we go. Here, this one. This is their revised.
Isn't this a dual chassis case where you can do two systems in one, or am I thinking a
No,
different one?
no, you're thinking of a different one. You're thinking of the
Okay.
the heck are you thinking of?
I know there was a case. I don't remember if it was Fantex, but I remember I saw it, I think, on CES, and it was
Yeah,
a multi-chamber case where you could have, like, you know, you could have your mini ATX board if you wanted to have
yeah,
something specific to
yeah,
streaming and recording,
yeah,
and then the other part could be for your gaming rig, right? So
yeah. I think Fantex, maybe Fantex does have one, but
yeah,
obviously this goes back to that ITX form factor.
okay.
But it's a taller ITX.
And what if you go to specs? What is it? What is it? So it's mini ITX support.
Yeah,
Okay, so that is really form factor. That's small.
yeah, it's a small vertical form factor. It is
Okay.
able to. The reason why I'm like I liked it obviously is because it's small, but
Hmm.
what they've done, and I found this out through other reviewers that got their hands on them. Fantex sent them a review case, and it's able to fit a 2.9 height graphics card.
Graphic card. Okay.
Yeah, which is good, and I think it
That's
can
a nice
fit
case.
pretty much a full length, like a three. Can't remember what millimeter height can, but I guess it depends, right? Like you can't go 300 plus millimeters,
Yeah.
but oh no, you can, because it's 490 millimeters tall. I think you can get up to like 310 millimeters or something around there.
I think with some of these third, you know, like Fantex, we'll just use Fantex in this example. I mean, usually when
Yeah,
they're building these cases in mind, they're obviously building it for, you know, people who want to have a form factor but don't want to have too much restriction with the card.
right.
So I think if you wanted to maybe go back into a form factor because you're liking the size, you know, again, you're probably going to fit, like, you know, 80 to 90% plus of the graphic cards out there. There might be the odd exception where, you know, maybe it's Zotac or EVGA and they've made some Goliath overclock card with like a monstrous heatsink that just wouldn't fit in this build. But I think the vast majority, obviously, you can make it work. It is a beautiful case. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a huge fan of Fantex cases. Like you know, for anybody out there too who might be listening, obviously when you go to these websites, it's rendered pictures, and you're thinking, oh, it looks good on pictures. I mean, I've had the privilege to see a lot of their cases up front in person, and they are really sleek and they are very nice. They also feel very premium from the metal and the glass. So unlike some other cases out there, they don't feel cheap, and they're definitely worth that little bit of extra money if you know, you want to save up a few extra pennies, obviously, to get one. So but you know, we're kind of coming to a bit of a crossroads in your situation, because although, I mean, I guess it's a question you're gonna have to ask yourself, right? You know,
What?
because you live in Toronto, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, I'm not going to say where you live, you know, for privacy, but you know, condo living's harder. It's smaller square footage, so form factor is very appealing, but at the same time, like I said, even just like RAM, like if you ever decide you want to get more RAM, you can't just add RAM to the footprint of that motherboard. You have to pop out the old RAM and then put in bigger modules, right? So pros and cons, I guess, going the full ATX, obviously you could always add more RAM if you needed it for your creative content workspace, as well as, again, just upgrading even more hard drives. Like usually there's more SATA ports, there's just more connections, if you wanted to keep adding SSDs. So SSD space, sorry, I don't know if that's as big of a deal, because again, like the technology now is so good, even with external SSDs and hard drives, that if you ever needed that, I guess, extra bandwidth for more space for your content creation, you could just always add something externally. Obviously, thermals is a bit of a bigger issue. You can even see it in here. Obviously, it looks like in the picture that you have up on the screen, they're using an all-in-one cooler, at least from the picture. So that would be something you definitely would want to probably get in the form factor. I wouldn't encourage just using, the pre-included fan that comes with your Ryzen CPU. Get an all-in-one cooler to make sure it's nice and cool, and something that's a lot more compact, where heat obviously is going to be a bigger issue. But I mean, if you decide to sway into the form factor for space, I mean, how much does this case go for? Curiously enough, because Vantex is a little bit more expensive.
Yeah,
this is a good looking case.
There's no price on this.
Really? Not on Newegg or Canada Computers?
Well, they don't have them yet.
It's not out yet.
Yeah, okay. They don't have them yet. So the old one was $140.
Oh, really? Okay, that's not bad.
So it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not expensive. Probably it's expensive for a mini ITX, depending. But it wasn't, the original one wasn't that bad. That bad of a price. It was like $140, which is good. But yeah, like form factor is a big thing.
That's a good looking case, buddy.
I know. But my like one of the other concerns is that, like, let's say, magically I get my hands on a 3080, right? Yeah, like it can fit in there. I know it can. But the other concern, and this is like actually a good segue. The other concern is the PSU, the power supply, right? Because the only thing I would have to use an SF power supply, or a smaller one, like Corsair SF 750. But I'm not sure. I think 750 is enough for the 3080, but I'm pretty sure that other people are suggesting to go higher. But you can't get an SF higher than 750.
Yeah, no, 750 is more than enough to run a 3080. But obviously your power supply is not just powering the graphic cards. Like you have to consider that it's also powering the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM. If you go down the road, I mean, again, in this build, it's obviously not like it's impossible, because you can just see from the requirements of this case, you would only ever be able to do one video card. But obviously 750 wouldn't cut it if for some reason you were getting into, dual video card functionality. Again, that use case scenario is just not something you're in. So 750 is more than enough to run a 3070 or the 3080. If form factor is what you want to go for. And quite honestly, obviously this, obviously my close friends know this. For anybody else, they wouldn't, but I'm an avid gamer. There will be some videos on our channel coming up where we'll be going through some of that, and unboxings and so forth, and I'll share my gaming stuff. But this case actually does make me a little excited, because it's a very good looking case, at least in the photo rendered pictures you're showing me. It looks really nice. It's really clean. It has that, I don't know what the right word is, like sleek. It's elegant. Like if it was on your desk, people who come over, they might ask about it, like, oh, what is that? What's going on here? But it's not overkill. And I find that, for someone like me who's an older gamer, because these days, back when we were younger, it's kind of not cool to be in a certain camp groups, right? Like if you were a nerd, you read comic books, you played games. Especially as you got older, you didn't want to just openly admit these things because people kind of like look weird at you. Whereas now it's so mainstream, like everybody's into it. It doesn't matter the age group or who you are or what you do. It's like it's perfectly acceptable. I just feel like for especially for people who want a clean looking design, especially maybe if you're an older person and you don't want something that just shouts I'm a gamer and it's crazy. This has a very, very beautiful design to it. And I like it. But also too, if you go with the full ATX build, me and you showed that other full ATX tower by Fantex, and that one, equally good in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's the Evolve X.
I think it is, yeah. Like this case here would be for someone looking to go full ATX build, and you could just stop right there. Like that's, I mean, that's a beautiful picture, right? Now, obviously, in this picture, it's obviously custom water looped, and it's hard tube, right? So that's obviously an enthusiast build, but again, I don't know. There's just something about Fantex. Like they make simple designs, but they're very nice looking. They're very premium looking. I don't know how to explain it. So, if this is the route you want to go with Fantex, like again, you would have my blessings. Like I think they make a fantastic product. I think that it feels and looks premium, and again, it just looks beautiful on a desk. So.
Yeah.
And just a fun fact, actually, just scroll up 1 second here, Tony. Just a fun fact, and this is go down just a little bit to the gaming screen. Now, again, I can't be specific as to what they're using there, but I don't know if it's necessarily a monitor. But another thing too that's good to get into the 3000 series cards is that especially people right now in the PS5 and the Xbox space, the biggest thing now is HDMI 2.1. That is able to have that 48 gigabyte bandwidth that allows for 4K 120 hertz. Now, albeit I don't know how PS5 and Xbox will even be able to do that, but I digress. Maybe they'll have some games that will be able to push that kind of frame rate. The reality is that actually PCs, especially something in the 3080 space, definitely can do lots of games over 60 frames in 4K, depending on the game and obviously how high you crank the graphic settings. But what would be really cool is with that HDMI 2.1, which I do believe is on the 3000 series cards, is that, again, down the road, you could technically run an HDMI cable to a 4K TV and enjoy, all the blissful gaming at a much bigger resolution on your 4K television. And I think even Linus and a few other tech channels actually covered it, like how the gap is just closing so much now on TVs and monitors, whereas once upon a time, it's, you could clearly see the distinction between monitor and TV, but that gap is narrowing now with, especially with the new HDMI and the fact that you can do 4K over, 60 frames. That's another thing to be considered of that for any gamer, yourself included, anybody else out there. If you're planning on getting into that space, you have a 4K TV, especially if you have one of the newer 4K TVs that supports HDMI 2.1, again, you might want to hold off for one of the newer graphic cards because, you can benefit from that as well.
Yeah, I think there is a, what was it? Because I saw some reviews, and there's a lot of video professionals, like editors and that kind of stuff. They're leaning more into the TV range of rather than like high end monitors. So they're looking at the TV range, and a lot of them are suggesting their CX line, which is go back here. CX.
So you have the 48-inch CX, which is a popular one there at Amazon.
Yeah. There it is. Just want to get to the product page, and they're saying like, it's it's superior 4K. Like it does, like it basically is like, good for kind of everything.
Yeah, and I'll talk to this just real quickly with you. I have an OLED. I have a C7 65-inch, and the picture is amazing. I haven't had anybody ever come over and seen a movie in 4K on the OLED that wasn't like, wow, it's a really crisp picture. The colors are super bright. The blacks are super black. But, obviously with OLED again, we won't spend too much time on this because there's so much content out there for this, but obviously with the risk of OLED, because it's self-lit pixels, there's obviously the risk of burn-in.
Right.
Right. So, for any those that are curious, including yourself, I did have, my PS4 and some other, my Nintendo Switch at one point connected to my OLED. And to be honest with everybody, I never had or experienced any issue with burn-in. It played super fine. But, again, I'm also in camp paranoid. If I make a huge investment on a TV, I don't want to have in the back of my mind that risk that, wait a minute, it could burn in, even if it was a 0.01% chance. I'm just not willing to roll the dice on that. So, in my case, I bought a separate TV just to play on my console so I could play them, hours on end if I had some free time and just not have to worry about it. So although I've seen lots of review channels, showing this TV, highlighting this TV as a monitor, as well as, for consoles and everything else. Again, like just full disclosure, buyers beware. There's always still a risk of burn-in, no matter how much or how marginalized and minimalized that risk is. There is still a risk there. So just always know that. And if you're comfortable with that and you feel like it won't impact you, then by all means go for it. But if you're going to consider using a TV, that's something to be mindful of. You might want to go with LG, for example, has their other LED, LCD lineups that don't have that risk. So just something to be mindful of. You know what I mean, Tony, as you go down that road.
That this is like way down the road for me. I don't even know when. And like that's just neither here nor there. But as we were kind of talking about it, as you mentioned, the TV end of things, and obviously it was poignant enough to bring this up as a point of discussion. But for the most part, I think going back to the PC side of things, PC end of the build, going with something like whether Fantex or whatever. The only other case I was looking at is the micro ATX. Where is it? The Corsair, their micro ATX case. This one, the Crystal 280.
Okay, so that's my case now. That's the case I have now.
Do you have the 280 or do you have the 46? Is it a 360 or 460? Whatever.
Mine is a full ATX, so
this is a mic. Yeah,
it'd be a bit bigger than that one, but it is ultimately like it's bigger, but it looks the same.
Yeah. It's the same design. It's just this one's shrunken down.
Yeah.
So I was kind of looking at this as well. But because again, it gives you more volume or capacity for airflow. But yeah, that was another option. But then obviously Fantex released their Evolve Shift version 2, and I was a fan of their version 1. So I don't know. Like it's a hard decision right now, and there's so many, and that's why it's so kind of intimidating, is because there's so many different products out there available, right? And that's that's something that I'm trying to navigate through. And I think kind of down the road, or even like we could talk about it now, it's just like the different components, right? Like motherboards and PSUs and AIOs and RAM, and even as simple as like solid state drives or M.2s, or sorry, NVMEs, right? They're all, there's so many different options out there, right? Like my builds, like the components that I put together, I updated the list that I gave you, and I swapped out the NVMe with a Samsung Pro 970. Just because of its read-write capability. It's like 6,000 read and 5,000 write.
So can you do me a favor, just because we're on the subject? Can you just click that case for 1 second that you're on?
Which one?
The
This
course
one?
name, just for example, I
Yeah.
want to see something. And can you scroll down to where you get to the, okay, so let's just, uh, system, storage, front roof. So again, it might be website dependent. Some websites put more details of the case. Obviously, when you're buying a case, like, you know, keeping it simple, break it down to probably 3 use case scenarios. Like, obviously the first is going to be what is appealing to you and what do you like, right? Just because something might be the highest rated case out there, if you don't like how it looks, if it won't fit your furniture, or at least I should say the theme of your furniture, like, obviously you're not going to go for it, right? Like, you want
Yeah.
something that's aesthetically pleasing to your surroundings. So if you have, again, like buying a white PC case might not make sense if your entire office is more dark themed, more black themed, right? So that's obviously the first step. The second step, when you're looking at a case, obviously the quality of the case. When you're going with some of the bigger names, obviously, again, I don't want to pretend like these guys are the greatest and build like the best products ever. Obviously, they're in it for the money as well. But if the case is made from aluminum or some form of metal versus less plastic, obviously that speaks to a higher quality than something that is completely made of plastic, right? And this is where it gets a little hard because, again, depending on the website, sometimes they will have those details in the description or the specification. Sometimes they don't, in which case you might have to go to YouTube. You might have to look for a review on the case, or you might have to go into a computer store and actually see it. Obviously, there are cases, and I honestly, I didn't even realize they still make them, but they still make computer cases even now where instead of tempered glass, it's plastic on the side. Where plastic just doesn't give it that premium look, especially when you're looking into it and when you're seeing the lights come through. So you can already, at least on Newegg, they've highlighted the fact that, and I can speak that this case is metal, so it's not made out of plastic on the outside. So it's very heavy and it's very durable, but you can see where they're saying that it has 3 stunning tempered glass panels, so that there's you're getting premium there. It's glass versus plastic, right? So when you're shopping for a case, obviously that's going to be kind of your fundamentals, right? So obviously, first, aesthetics, you got to go for the aesthetics. Functionality is important, but obviously just because something's the most functional, if it's going to look atrocious or ugly in your room, probably doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So get something that is aesthetically pleasing to your eyes and to your theme, and then do your best to do some research on again, the case and the glass. Obviously there are people out there that will take it to an extreme degree and start getting into thermals and is it cooler in this case? You know what, if you go out there and want to go down that path of research, you will find plenty of tech sites that have done the deep science research and will show you if there's like a 5-degree net Celsius difference between the cases. But again, for the average gamer, that is a non-concern. Most cases will provide you more than enough adequate airflow to cool your system. If you're an intense overclocker, that could become different. That's a different use case scenario. Obviously, you want to push the boundaries of your system. Cooling is important. Then someone can go down that path to investigate the thermals and the cooling on the cases. And there's plenty of websites to go into that. But I think in your case, I don't think you're going to push the boundaries to that limit, at least not yet. So whether it's the Fantex, whether it's the Corsair, these are all premium cases. So they are all going to offer you the premium benefits of being mostly metal, mostly tempered glass, or all tempered glass, I should say, as well as, again, they do all look aesthetically nice. So they're more simple, but they're elegant. So again, you'll have to make the decision. I think for you, it's going to come down to, full ATX for expandability and upgradability, or, micro mini ATX for the form factor. And that's going to be the tough one.
Well, I think for me at least, like I have my mindset on like I know what I need for kind of like the software that I use.
Mm-hmm.
So then I have to just my mindset is like, okay, buy or equip it with what I need, not the baseline, but what I need completely, from a RAM perspective, from hard drive perspective, and all those things. And it all just kind of, again, the more research I did with PC builds and mini ITX and ATX and micro ATX. Obviously the smaller builds you get less space, but they all work fine, like in terms of like the work that I do, right? Because I'm not going to top off. I'm really not going to go beyond 64 gigs of RAM. Like that's it, right?
Yeah, and I honestly, again, for the creative
and that's on
content,
the RAM side, right? So
and for the creative content you're doing, you're probably okay in the 32 gig space, like 64, maybe if you were, getting into 3D animations and so forth. But
and that's it. That's it, right? So I think for the most part, going in like I guess I said 64 is the top end of like like I don't need 64. I can I do use 32, and obviously the faster with the new RAM, faster speeds gives you better performance out of it.
Yeah, so again, any RAM is more than sufficient for, again, a multifunctional PC. For anybody who is curious, like if you want to squeeze the most out of your system, the RAM timings is important. Obviously, the lower and faster timings will offer you a more zippy experience and more snappy experience, whether it's gaming or, again, just the general responsiveness of your system. But obviously, there's a bit of a premium for that. Like, if you go into, Canada Computers, Newegg, wherever, if you look at Corsair RAM, and if you look at even 3600, like 3600 DDR4 Corsair RAM, you will see tons from Corsair, and you'll be looking at them all, and the pictures will all look the same. You'll be wondering, like, I don't get it. The prices are all different on all of them. Obviously, size is going to be why the price difference. Some of them will be, 8 gig sticks versus 16 gig sticks, and so on and so forth. But then also what you need to pay attention to, obviously, is the timing of the RAM. And obviously, the lower the timing, the faster the RAM, right? So, but again,
let me just pull one up, and so that we can kind of like, because this is something that I didn't really consider in terms of the timing, right? Let's get out of here. Let's go.
So just type in DDR 3600. That's kind of like your, standard footprint for Ryzen that most people tend to buy, right? For many reasons. So
click on any one of these.
Yeah, sure. Let's click on any one.
Okay.
Right. So if you still see there where it says the timing, 16, 19, 19, 39. Again, the lower the numbers here, the faster the RAM. Now, even though you might find, other RAM sticks that are the exact same, they're DDR, they're 3600, and again, they're whatever. In this case here, on our example, this is 2x8, so it's 8 gig sticks for a total of 16 gigabytes in dual channel. It's $113, but you'd be surprised that if you went with the same sticks but with lower timings, it might be $160, for example. So you're paying for that extra snappiness of the RAM. So
okay, so let me go to another one, just out of like just something more expensive, and see what the timing is, because I just want to see like the relationship between kind of like these numbers, right?
Yeah,
I think that was
that's about the same.
Yeah.
So scroll down for a second.
Yeah.
No, go back up. Sorry, just because it's a little fast. Go. So what's that? That's 16 gig. It's 36. So that one's cheaper already. So let's look at this one, right? Like it's $94. I think it's the same timing. This one, see there, 18. You have different time.
Yeah. Yeah, because the other one was like 16, whatever. Yeah.
So if you go back, but then another thing you need to be careful of too is click on the first one we looked at, because see how it says it has go up to the top, it has an XMP profile. So again, for you and for other people listening, RAM can be overclocked, and it used to be, back in the day, it was very hard to overclock these things efficiently. But now the computer systems in the BIOS, they do it very efficiently for you. So if the RAM already has an XMP profile, it means it can already be overclocked within the BIOS by just selecting the XMP profile. And by selecting that XMP profile, it will not only make the RAM run faster, but it might also lower the timings as well.
Okay.
So again, for the sake of anybody out there, like, again, when we're talking to a broad spectrum audience, you want to buy a PC, you want to buy a PC for gaming, and you're hearing things like timings on RAM, and like, oh my God, what am I going to get? Again, the vast majority of RAM you're going to pick is going to be more than sufficient for any of your use case scenarios. That getting into the timings is when you're literally trying to squeeze every little ounce of juice you can out of your system for frames. So if you got lower timings in your RAM, there's, again, plenty of videos and benchmarks that have done this. You're not talking about getting double the system performance or even 30% the system performance. In most cases, very negligible in how much frames you'll add to your gameplay by having those slightly faster timings, where the biggest bang for your dollar is obviously getting newer RAM. So when you're getting something like DDR4 at 3600, that speed, that is already snappy RAM. Like, obviously this is going to give you much more performance over older DDR3, for example, on older chipsets, right? So as long as, and you have to be in DDR4 because obviously for your processor, AMD likes fast RAM. So, again, I wouldn't recommend going anything less than 3600. Again, I'm not even sure if you can, to be honest. You probably could, but I know for a lot of entry-level AMD builds, 3600 is where most people are for the RAM. But obviously, this is kind of bare bones. I don't know, Tony, if you want to make your system a little flashy. Obviously, RAM now comes with RGB, so you might want to get something a little bit more fancier than this. I've had G.Skill RAM. It's nothing wrong with it. Personally, I'm using Corsair now, and it's given me no issues. So, but yeah, so I wouldn't get too caught up in the timings. It's just maybe a note to people out there that they do exist. And if you are looking to go down to investigating the timings on your RAM to get the lowest, you can obviously do that research. But again, you're going to be getting very negligible performance increases in your machine from gaming by doing so. And it may not be worth the extra cost and money, to be honest.
Right. Sorry, my camera kind of died on me.
That's okay.
It was just the yeah. So I'm just gotta get this. Let's see here. I don't know where space language. Yeah. So I guess this is a good time to stop.
Yeah. And we can wrap it up with the fact that as you're going down this path of building your PC, and for anybody else out there that's going through it, again, keep things as basic as you can. Don't get overwhelmed with the details. If you're buying a video card, there's tons of video cards to pick from. Keep it simple. What kind of resolution you want to play it? Start with your monitor. What kind of monitor are you going to buy? That will kind of tell you, whether or not you need something like a 3080 or maybe a 3060 Ti, or maybe even an older generation card. Maybe you're not even ever planning on playing, in 4K or have an HDMI 2.1 TV, in which case you might even be able to get an older generation card on sale if you're just going to play at 1080p. When it comes to RAM, obviously, again, DDR4 is kind of that's the newest RAM. Going faster in speed is going to give you better bang for buck than getting necessarily a lower speed with faster timings, right? It's just been my personal experience. Just go with the faster RAM, just for the overall quality of the experience. Hard drive, again, hopefully, you touched on the M.2 and stuff like that. In your particular use case, and just so some people are aware, we never commented on it, but you're planning on building an X570 chipset because you're going with the Ryzen 5000 series. You will get the advantage of PCIe 4.0. So there are faster read and write times on the new generation 4 SSD. So for anybody else out there that's interested, do a little bit of research into that because the hard drives are faster than the older generation.
Well, that's something that maybe we can do, like we can discuss in a later video, because I've noticed that kind of like between with the 570s, yes, they have PCIe 4 or Gen 4, but the B550s also have Gen 4. And
yeah, you were sending that to me.
And, and and the differences, again, like we'll save that for a later video and talk
For
about the
sure.
differences between the two, and so that people are aware of, and at least so that I'm aware as well, because I know that the availability of mini ITX 570s are not that great. Like, we don't have a great amount of those motherboards available. It's just from the manufacturer's side of things. Not that there's short stock, but manufacturers aren't building them as much because, I guess the demand isn't there really. But the B550s, there are slowly coming out. But yeah, we can talk about that in a future video.
Yeah, excited.
All right, so thanks for jumping on this call, Phil. Maybe since I lost my camera, you can wish everybody well.
Yeah, no worries. It was a pleasure to have you guys listening. If you guys have any questions, feel free to add comments and send us your suggestions. This was just more of a podcast type video we wanted to dabble into as Tony goes down the adventure of building his PC. For some of you who have had the privilege to see Clay's unboxing, he is also building a PC right now. So I think that in addition to just giving people tech news, doing unboxings and so forth, we're going to dabble in the gaming space. We're going to do some collaboration there and play some games, which should be a lot of fun. So yeah, we're excited to have you guys along this journey. And again, yeah, if you like the video, subscribe, give us a like, and of course, give us any comments or some feedback, and we'll just try to do better next time. All right, Tony.
All right, Phil.
Take care, buddy.